Now, a look at Wisconsin politics, and it comes on the day it's announced that Democratic VP candidate Tim Walz will be coming to Green Bay on Monday. The Minnesota governor will campaign in Eau Claire in the morning and then stop in Green Bay in the afternoon. This will be his 5th visit out of the state since he became the nominee, and that is where we begin today. And we say hello to Matt Smith, who, of course, is the executive producer and co-host of UpFront, along with the political director at WISN TV. So let's start, Matt, with that news that Democratic presidential candidate, Tim Walz, will be coming to Green Bay. It's his first visit to Northeast Wisconsin. It comes on the heels of last week's visit to the area by Kamala Harris. So what does this tell you about what they think the strategic value is of Northeast Wisconsin?
Well, listen, I think we're going to see a flood of candidates and surrogates in these final 3 weeks. And we kind of had a lull this week, right? There was a ton of action this past week, and this week it's been a little bit of a lull, but you're going to see them start to target these key areas, right? Northeast Wisconsin, the swing area. There's going to be more visits to Western Wisconsin. Trump has said he's going to come down to Milwaukee and do a rally here at Pfizer Forum, as well as in Green Bay. So 2 major stops in Green Bay. And of course, Vice President Kamala Harris is going to be in the state as well between now and Election Day. So it's once you really start to piece this map together, when you look at how you're going to get to 270, and for Democrats, when you look at a must-win in Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, and if you don't sweep all 3 of those, the calculation changes, especially when you look at some of these most recent polls, and it is a dead heat in all 3 of these Midwestern states.
Our friend Craig Gilbert from the Marquette University Law School Lubar Center did look at the most recent Marquette poll. He started diving into the numbers, wrote something today, and it was about the shrinking number, Matt, of undecideds here in the state. It's gone from 12% back in June all the way down to 5%. That and the double haters are also dwindling. So what does that mean in terms of what kind of targeting and messaging we might see? Because that undecided vote usually is deciding in close races in Wisconsin.
Well, listen, this is the group that is the target in these final weeks, right? The independent voters and some of these moderate Republicans who I guess haven't necessarily made up their minds yet. These are Republicans who say, you know what, I don't really necessarily like Trump. They don't know if they've gone all the way over to the other side to vote for Harris, so they're questioning what exactly to do. So the campaigns have incredible data on both sides in terms of how they're going to target this core group of voters. And really, when you think of it, yeah, this is dwindling down to 5%. The undecided is going to keep going down, obviously, as we get closer to Election Day. But when you win a race in Wisconsin by 10, 20, 30,000 votes, these are the voters that are going to decide this election, because the base is already out there. It's about getting your base, and now it's about convincing these undecided voters, and whether that's through rallies or appearances or TV commercials or ads on your Facebook feed, whatever it is, if you're one of these undecided voters, they are going to find a way to find you over these next couple of weeks.
Matt, I thought it was interesting, and we'll probably see it. You mentioned President Trump will be coming to Green Bay, coming to Milwaukee, but when he was in the state over the weekend in Juneau, there was still all this signage around, and you see it at all these rallies. Vote early. It is such an odd change from what it has been in the years past. But have Republicans caught up to the machine that the Democrats have in terms of turning out the early vote, turning out the early registration? I know there's a big event coming up tonight in Milwaukee.
Yeah, well, listen, they said they need to turn out the vote, and they need to reach the levels of Democrats if they want to remain competitive. It's unknown, as we sit here today, at least from the Republican perspective, from Republican officials I've talked to, about whether the hard data shows it's working. But just anecdotally, they say, when they've been out on these bus tours, on these field stops, on the door knocking, they say there is more acceptance from Republicans and understanding that you have to get out and vote early to meet those levels of Democrats. At the same time, they say sometimes when Trump comes out and talks about fraud or mail-in voting or what have you, that can put a damper on these efforts. So it's this interesting situation. And you're right, I was in Juneau on Sunday with the former president, and there was this huge sign that said early right over his shoulder, and he talked about voting early. At the same time, in another breath, he's going to talk about, one-day voting and paper ballots. So it's this battle within the Republican Party, and it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out, just in terms of their ground game and how it actually works. And you mentioned Milwaukee. The Bucks are getting involved. If you've heard, there's a game, the Lakers, heard of them? They're in town tonight, preseason, who cares?
Not
right?
everybody wants to be there, though. That's what also I've heard.
LeBron doesn't want to be here, but you know what? Maybe he'll register to vote. Who knows? So the Bucks are holding a voter registration drive inside Fiserv Forum in the atrium. It's part of their initiative. You've seen this in teams across the league, both the NBA, the NFL, in terms of urging people to get out to vote, voter participation. So this is one way the Bucks are getting involved in these final weeks of the election.
Matt, let's turn our attention quickly to the Senate race here. A lot of talk this week from the campaigns about their internal polling showing a much closer race than the external polling. Marquette's Law School most recent poll had a 7-point lead for Senator Tammy Baldwin. She says she's not buying it. You're going to have the chairman of the Senate National Republican Committee on your show on Sunday. Is he buying it?
Well, no. Listen, everyone is saying this is incredibly close, Democrats and Republicans, potentially a 1-2 point race, and that's a wash in Wisconsin, right, in terms of margin of error and what have you.
Sure.
It was incredibly telling this past week when the Cook Political Report changed their rating from leans Democrat to a toss-up. I cannot tell you the alarm bells that raised among Democratic circles. They've seen this, they've known that, but then to also see the reporting, right, out on this and this notion that this is such a close race when Senator Baldwin, you know, in the polls in the last couple of months has at least maintained the lead. Everyone's coming into this final stretch as this is incredibly tight. Republicans are funneling new money into Eric Hovde's campaign. So this is a true toss-up, and I think we're going to see a lot more attention on the Wisconsin Senate race in these final weeks than we have previously.
Interesting to note again. Tammy Baldwin has never lost a race, but she sure seems to think this is quite the fight. All right, Matt, it's good to see you. We'll see you again on Sunday.
Sounds good. Have a good day.